The morning sun shone bright over New Busan, a peaceful human colony world far from Earth. Green fields stretched as far as the eye could see. Children played in the streets while their parents worked the farms. Life was simple and good here. Ji-hoon, Park stood on his office balcony, watching the daily life of his colony. As the administrator, he took care of everyone's needs. The people trusted him. He had kept them safe for 5 years now. Today should have been like any other day. Then, the ships came. 3 large alien vessels dropped from the sky like dark clouds. They landed in the main square with loud crashes that shook the ground. People stopped what they were doing and stared. Children hid behind their parents. Ji-hoon ran down to the square. He had dealt with alien visitors before, but something felt wrong this time. The ships were military vessels, not the usual trade ships that came to New Busan. A ramp opened on the largest ship. Out walked Commander Threx, a tall Valdorian with gray skin and cold yellow eyes. Behind him came his second-in-command, Xylith, a snake-like Kalari with sharp teeth. 20 armed soldiers followed them. "I am Commander Threx of the Galactic Council," the alien announced in a harsh voice. "This colony is under investigation for breaking treaty laws." Ji-hoon stepped forward. "Welcome to New Busan. I am Ji-hoon Park, the administrator here." "What treaty violations are you talking about?" Threx looked down at Ji-hoon with disgust. "Humans always ask too many questions. You will give us full access to all your records and facilities. Now." "I need to see your papers first," Ji-hoon said calmly. "We follow proper procedures here." The alien commander's eyes grew angry. "You dare to question the Galactic Council? You will obey or face the consequences." Daeho Seo, an old soldier-turned-farmer, watched from nearby. He had fought in the First Contact Wars 20 years ago. He recognized the signs of trouble. His hand moved slowly toward his hidden weapon. Dr. Moran Lee stood by the medical center with her staff. She had treated injured humans and aliens alike, but she had never seen such hostile aliens on New Busan before. Woo Jin Choi, the communications officer, stayed by his post. He kept the quantum radio ready. If things went bad, Earth needed to know about it. "We need time to gather the records," Ji-hoon said. "Give us 1 hour." "You have 10 minutes, Threx snapped. "My soldiers will search your buildings now." The aliens spread out across the square. They pushed people aside and pointed strange scanning devices at everything. Their behavior scared the colonists. Parents pulled their children closer. 8-year-old Hyuna Kim played near the fountain with her friends. She had bright eyes and loved to explore. Her uncle Minho worked as an engineer on the colony. Her parents had taught her to be kind to everyone, even aliens. One of the alien soldiers set up a large scanning machine near the fountain. It hummed with energy and flashed bright lights. Hyuna and her friends watched with curiosity. "Stay back, little ones," the soldier said in broken human language. "This machine is dangerous." But Hyuna was fascinated by the pretty lights. When the soldier looked away, she stepped closer. She wanted to touch the smooth metal surface. It looked so different from human machines. Her small hand reached out and touched a glowing panel. The machine sparked and made a loud noise. Smoke poured out of it. The scanning device stopped working completely. The soldier shouted in his alien language. Commander Threx came running over. His yellow eyes blazed with fury when he saw his broken equipment. "What happened here?" he demanded. "The human child broke the scanner," the soldier reported. Threx looked down at little Hyuna. She stood frozen with fear, tears starting in her eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I did not mean to break it." "You stupid human child," Threx roared. "Do you know how much this costs? Your primitive species destroys everything you touch." Ji-hoon rushed over when he heard the shouting. "Commander, please calm down. She is just a child. We will pay for any damage." "Payment is not enough." Threx pulled out his energy weapon. "This child must learn respect for Galactic Council property." Daeho Seo saw the weapon and started moving, but he was too far away. Dr. Moran Lee shouted, "No!" and began running toward them. Woo Jin Choi reached for his radio to call for help, but they were all too late. Commander Threx pointed his energy weapon at little Hyuna and fired. The blue energy beam hit the child in the chest. She screamed once and fell to the ground. Her small body lay still on the stone pavement. Smoke rose from the burn wound on her chest. The entire square fell silent. Every human stared in shock and horror. No one could believe what they had just seen. An alien had shot a human child for accidentally breaking a machine. Dr. Moran Lee reached Huna first. She knelt down and checked for a pulse. The girl was alive but barely breathing. The energy weapon had burned through her chest. Without immediate medical help, she would die. "Get her to the medical center now!" Moran shouted. Deho Seo stood like a statue, his face white with rage. His hands shook as memories of the war flooded back. He had seen aliens kill human soldiers before, but never a child. Never like this. Jihoon Park stared at Commander Threx with eyes full of hate. "You shot a child," he said quietly. "An innocent child." Threx put away his weapon like nothing had happened. "She damaged council property. The punishment was appropriate." Appropriate? Jihoon could not believe what he was hearing. "She is 8 years old." "Age does not matter," the alien commander said coldly. "Respect for the council must be taught early." Woo Jin Choi had already sent an emergency message to Earth. His fingers shook as he typed the words. "Alien military force shot human child on New Busan. Child critically injured. Request immediate assistance." The message traveled through quantum space at the speed of light. In minutes, it would reach Earth. In hours, the entire human government would know what had happened. Dr. Moran Lee worked frantically in the medical center. The energy weapon had done terrible damage to Huna's small body. She used every piece of medical equipment she had. The girl's parents arrived and cried as they watched their daughter fight for life. Back in the square, more aliens arrived. From the ships, they acted like shooting the child was normal. They continued their investigation as if nothing had happened. "Secure the area," Commander Threx ordered his soldiers. "These humans might become violent." Deho Seo watched the aliens with cold eyes. He thought about his hidden weapons cache. He thought about calling the other veterans. But he held back. Starting a fight now would only get more people killed. Jihoon tried one more time to reason with the aliens. "Commander, you have hurt an innocent child. This will cause serious problems between our peoples." Threx laughed. "Problems? You humans signed the treaties. The Galactic Council has absolute authority over member worlds. We can do whatever we want here." "Even shoot children?" "Especially shoot children," the alien said with a cruel smile. "Young humans must learn their place in the galaxy." Woo Jin received a reply from Earth within an hour. The message was short but clear. Message. Received. Earth responds in 6 hours. Protect the child. Avoid conflict until help arrives. But more messages kept coming from other human worlds. News of the attack was spreading fast through human space. Anger was building like a storm. On Earth, Admiral In Soo-han sat in an emergency meeting. President Yeonji Kwon read the report 3 times before she spoke. "They shot one of our children," she said in a voice like ice. "They shot a little girl for touching their machine." "Yes, Madam President," Admiral Han replied. "The alien commander claims it was justified under council law." Justified. The president stood up slowly. "Shooting an 8-year-old girl is justified." Dr. Sunho Nam, Earth's expert on alien psychology, spoke up. "I warned the council about this years ago. I told them that humans have absolute rules about protecting children. They ignored my warnings. They will not ignore what comes next," President Kwon said quietly. Back on New Busan, little Huna Kim lay in the medical center, fighting for her life. Her parents held her hands and prayed. Dr. Miran Lee had done everything possible. Now they could only wait and hope. In the square, Commander Threx finished his investigation. He found no treaty violations. The humans had done nothing wrong. He had shot a child for no reason except his own anger. As the alien ships prepared to leave, Threx spoke to Jihoon one last time. "Remember this day, human. Remember what happens when you disrespect the Galactic Council." Jihoon watched the ships lift off and disappear into space. He looked at the blood stain on the stone where Huna had fallen. His hands made fists at his sides. "I will remember," he said to the empty sky. "We will all remember." The aliens had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had hurt A human child and thought there would be no consequences. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The emergency message from New Busan reached Earth in the middle of the night. Admiral In Soo-han was pulled from his bed by urgent calls. Within 30 minutes, he sat in the war room with President Yoon Ji-kwon and the entire Defense Council. The quantum radio crackled with Woo Jin-choi's voice from New Busan. The child is alive, but critical. The alien commander showed no regret. They claim shooting her was legal under council law. President Kwon closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them, Admiral Han saw something that made him shiver. Her eyes held the cold fury of a mother whose child had been attacked. How long to mobilize the fleet? She asked quietly. 6 hours for the first battle group, Admiral Han replied. 12 hours for full mobilization. Do it! Dr. Sunho Nam entered the room carrying thick files. As Earth's chief expert on alien cultures, he had studied every species in the Galactic Council. His face was pale with worry. Madam President, I must tell you something important, he said. This is not the first time Council forces have hurt human children. I have been tracking incidents for years. The room fell silent. President Kwon's voice turned to ice. Explain. Dr. Nam opened his files. 17 incidents in the past 5 years. Council officials or soldiers attacking human children for minor reasons. The Council always calls them accidents or justified punishments. They cover them up. Admiral Han stood up slowly. You are telling us they have been systematically attacking our children? Yes, sir. And they think we are too weak to do anything about it. President Kwon walked to the window overlooking Earth's capital city. Millions of lights twinkled in the darkness. Each light represented families with children sleeping safely in their beds. They think we are weak, she said softly. They think humans will accept the abuse of our children because we want peace. She turned back to face the room. They are wrong. Across the solar system, Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung Lim received his orders aboard the flagship TDF Incheon's Fury. The massive warship hummed with activity as crew members ran to their stations. Captain Yejin Oh stood on the bridge watching. Her screens filled with data. Ship after ship appeared on the display as the Terran Defense Fleet assembled. She had never seen so many human warships in one place. Battle Group Alpha reporting ready, came the voice of Commander Seok Jin-an. His ships formed a perfect attack formation in space. Stealth reconnaissance fleet standing by, reported Captain Ji-woo Song. Her ships were invisible on all sensors, using technology the aliens had never seen. Fleet Admiral Lim opened a channel to all ships. This is not a drill, he announced. Council forces have attacked a human child. We are going to war. A cheer went up from every ship in the fleet. Human crews had been waiting for this moment since the first contact wars ended. They had suffered alien arrogance and abuse for 20 years. Now they could finally fight back. On the diplomatic front, Ambassador Kyung-min Ryu stood before the Galactic Council Assembly. The Great Hall buzzed with conversations in dozens of alien languages. Most council members seemed bored by another human complaint. I demand immediate justice for the attack on our child, Ambassador Ryu announced. Commander Threx must be arrested and tried for his crimes. Council Speaker Norvac, a slug-like being with multiple eyes, waved dismissively. The commander followed proper procedures. The human child damaged council property. Punishment was appropriate. She is 8 years old. Age is irrelevant, Norvac replied coldly. The law applies to all species equally. Counselor Minji Yu, one of the few humans still serving in the council, tried to reason with her alien colleagues. You do not understand human psychology. Attacking children is the worst crime in human culture. This will have serious consequences. Chancellor Glorex, the pompous Thraxian leader, laughed loudly. What can humans do? You have 30 worlds against our 3,000. Your fleet is tiny compared to ours. You are making a terrible mistake, Minji warned. Humans do not think like other species. We have different rules about children. Your emotional weaknesses are well known, Chancellor Glorex sneered. That is why humans will always be a minor species in the galaxy. Ambassador Ryu listened to the insults and dismissals. Finally, he stood up and made a formal announcement. The Earth government gives the Galactic Council 72 hours to surrender Commander Threx and all involved parties for trial under human law. The alien council members burst into laughter. The idea that humans could threaten the mighty Galactic Council seemed ridiculous to them. "And if we refuse?" asked Council Speaker Norvac with amusement. "Then you will face the consequences," Ambassador Ryu replied calmly. "We are terrified," Chancellor Glorex said mockingly. "The humans might write angry letters." Ambassador Ryu gathered his papers and walked toward the exit. "You have 72 hours. Use them wisely." As he left the chamber, he could hear the aliens still laughing behind him. They had no idea what was coming. Back on Earth, massive preparations were underway. Young-Ho Bae, a famous war correspondent, arrived at the main spaceport to document the mobilization. What he saw amazed him. Human. Soldiers moved with quiet efficiency. There were no battle cries or dramatic speeches. Just cold, methodical preparation for war. Supply ships launched every few minutes. Weapons were loaded with careful precision. "How do you feel about going to war?" Young-Ho asked a young soldier. The soldier looked at him with hard eyes. "They shot a little girl," he said simply. "That is all I need to know." At the main command center, Dr. Sunho Nam briefed the military leadership on alien weaknesses. For 20 years, he had been studying council species and their technologies. Every peaceful meeting had been an intelligence-gathering opportunity. "The Valdorians are strong but slow," he explained. "The Kalari are fast but fragile. The Thraxians rely on their shields too much." "What about their main battle fleet?" asked Admiral Han. Dr. Nam smiled grimly. "They have not improved their weapons in 50 years. They think they are too powerful to need upgrades." "And our weapons?" "Completely unknown to them. We have been secretly developing new technologies since first contact. They think we are still using primitive systems." General Sun Young Park, head of military intelligence, added more information. "Our agents report that Council forces are not prepared for war. They have not fought a real battle in decades. They think showing force is enough to control everyone. They are about to learn the difference between controlling others and fighting humans," Admiral Han said quietly. On New Busan, Dr. Miran Lee worked around the clock to save little Hyuna Kim. The girl's condition was stable but critical. Her parents never left her bedside. Daeho Seo organized the Colonial Defense Force. Other veterans came out of retirement to help protect their world. They had limited weapons, but their determination was absolute. "The fleet will be here soon," Jahoon Park told the assembled colonists. "Until then, we must be ready for anything." "What if the aliens come back?" asked a worried mother. Daeho Seo answered for him. "They will not get a second chance to hurt our children." The colonists nodded grimly. New Busan had always been a peaceful place, but its people remembered what they were willing to fight for. Woojin Choi continued sending updates to Earth. "Child's condition improving slowly. Colony on high alert. We are ready for orders." The reply came back immediately. "Hold position. Justice is coming." In space, the Galactic Council's patrol fleets went about their normal duties. They had no idea that human warships were moving through hyperspace toward them. Council Admiral Vorthak commanded the largest fleet, thinking his routine patrol mission would be boring as always. "Any word from Commander Threx?" asked his communications. "Officer." "Still investigating the human colony," Admiral Vorthak replied. "These humans always complain about everything. Threx probably had to discipline them. None of them knew that Commander Threx had already returned to his base. None of them knew about the wounded child or Earth's ultimatum. The Council's information systems moved slowly and often ignored minor incidents involving humans. Back on Earth, President Yoon Ji-kwon met with her closest advisors one final time before the deadline expired. "Are you certain about this path?" asked her chief advisor. "War with the Council could destroy us." "They have already started the war," she replied. "They started it the moment they shot our child. Now we must finish it." "The alien fleets are much larger than ours." President Kwon looked at him calmly. "Size is not everything in war. The Council has forgotten that." Dr. Sunho Nam agreed. "The aliens think like bureaucrats, not soldiers. They follow rules and procedures. Humans adapt and improvise. Plus, they do not know about our new weapons," added Admiral Han. "We have kept our best technology secret for exactly this moment." The countdown timer on the wall showed 6 hours until the ultimatum expired. Every human military base was ready. Every ship was in position. Every soldier knew what they were fighting for. President Quan made one final broadcast to the human worlds. My fellow humans, in 6 hours, we will show the galaxy something it has forgotten. We will show them what happens when you hurt our children. Her words reached every human colony. From Earth to the outer rim, millions of people prepared for war. They did not know if they would win, but they knew their cause was right. The galaxy was about to learn the first rule of dealing with humans: never, ever hurt their children. The 72-hour deadline ended at exactly midnight Earth time. No response had come from the Galactic Council. They had ignored the human ultimatum completely. President Yoonji Kwon stood in the war room watching the countdown clock reach 0. Around her, military commanders waited for her orders. The silence stretched for a long moment. "Begin Operation Justice," she said quietly. Admiral In Soo-han nodded to his communications officer. "Send the signal to all fleets. Execute Protocol Samson." Across human space, warships that had been hiding in the darkness suddenly came alive. Their engines blazed as they moved toward their targets. The war had begun. Captain Yejin-oh commanded the first strike against Kepler Station, the Council's main fleet depot. Her flagship TDF Incheon's Fury dropped out of hyperspace along with 30 other human warships. The alien station's sensors detected them immediately. Warning alarms blared across the facility. Council Admiral Gorth scrambled his defensive fleet to meet the human attack. "Incoming human vessels," reported his tactical officer. "They appear to be using standard Earth technology." Admiral Gorth laughed confidently. 30 ships against our 100? These humans are either brave or stupid." "Probably. Stupid," agreed his second-in-command. "Activate the station shields and prepare to destroy them." But when the alien fleet opened fire, something impossible happened. The human ships simply vanished from their sensors. The energy beams passed harmlessly through empty space. "Where did they go?" demanded Admiral Gorth. Before anyone could answer, the human ships reappeared inside the station's shields. Their weapons blazed with energy types the aliens had never seen before. Kepler Station's defensive systems exploded in massive fireballs. Captain Yejin-oh smiled grimly as her ships tore through the alien defenses. "Phase shift technology activated. All weapons free. Show them what human engineering can do." The secret weapon systems that Earth had been developing for 20 years finally revealed themselves. Plasma cannons that could punch through any known armor, energy shields that bent space itself, and most shocking of all, ships that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. The Council fleet tried desperately to fight back, but their weapons could not hit targets that kept shifting between realities. In 20 minutes, 100 alien warships were destroyed. Kepler Station surrendered without firing another shot. Similar attacks happened across 17 star systems. Human forces struck with surgical precision at military targets. They had spent 2 decades learning everything about Council technology and tactics. Now that knowledge became their weapon. Commander Seokjin An led Battle Group Alpha against the fortress world of Nexus Prime. The planet was supposed to be impossible to capture. It had orbital defense platforms and a massive garrison. "How do we get past those shields?" asked his tactical officer. "We do not go past them," Commander An replied. "We go through them." The human ships activated their dimensional phase drives. To the watching aliens, it looked like the ships became ghosts. They passed through the planetary shields like they were not even there. The garrison commander on Nexus Prime could not believe his sensors. "How are they doing this? Our shields should stop everything." "Perhaps their sensors are broken," suggested his aide hopefully. That hope died when human Marines started teleporting directly into the command center. The aliens had never seen personal teleportation technology before. Their fortress became a prison as human soldiers appeared in every corridor. Within 4 hours, Nexus Prime had fallen. The impregnable fortress world surrendered without causing a single human casualty. Dr. Sun Ho Nam broadcast a message to the entire galaxy from Earth. His words were translated into every known language and sent to every world. "People of the galaxy," he began calmly. "You may wonder why humanity has suddenly revealed such advanced technology. You may ask why we kept these weapons secret." His image appeared on millions of screens across thousands of worlds. Alien leaders watched with growing fear as the truth was revealed. For 20 years, every human diplomat was also a spy. Every trade mission gathered intelligence. Every peaceful meeting was preparation for this day. We studied your weaknesses. While you thought we were weak, the implications hit alien leaders like a hammer blow. Humans had been planning this war since the day they joined galactic civilization. We prepared for this moment because we knew it would come. We knew that sooner or later, someone would cross the line that must never be crossed. They would hurt our children. Dr. Nam's voice turned cold. Now you see the result. When you attack human children, you do not face human individuals. You face all of humanity, with all our technology, all our determination, and all our fury. On the Council, home world, Chancellor Glorex watched the reports pour in. 17 major military bases destroyed, 3 fortress worlds captured, hundreds of warships lost, all in the first day of fighting. This is impossible, he shouted at his military advisors. Humans only have 30 worlds. How can they defeat our empire? Military Coordinator Vextar looked at the damage reports with shaking hands. Their technology is far beyond what we expected. Our intelligence was completely wrong. What do you mean wrong? We thought humans were using primitive weapons from their first contact period. These new weapons are centuries ahead of anything we have seen. Council Speaker Norvac called for an emergency session. The Great Assembly Hall filled with panicked alien leaders. For the first time in galactic history, the mighty council faced an enemy they could not defeat through intimidation. We must negotiate, urged Councillor Minji Yu. The humans want justice for their child. Give them Commander Threx, and this war will end. Never, roared Chancellor Glorex. The Council does not negotiate with inferior species. We are not dealing with an inferior species, Minji replied. We are dealing with humans who have been pretending to be inferior while they prepared to destroy us. The truth was starting to sink in among the alien leaders. Humanity had played a game of deception that lasted decades. They had hidden their true capabilities while learning everything about their enemies. Admiral Vorthak tried to rally the remaining council fleets for a counterattack, but his forces were scattered and confused. Human strike teams appeared everywhere at once, hitting supply depots and communication centers. How many ships do the humans actually have? Asked his chief of staff. We do not know, Admiral Vorthak admitted. Our estimates were based on what they showed us. Apparently, they showed us almost nothing. Captain Jiwoo Song's stealth reconnaissance fleet had been positioned around Council Core worlds for months. Her ships emerged from hiding, like predators revealing themselves to prey. Stealth 1 to command, she reported. All Council homeworlds are surrounded. Their defensive fleets are cut off from each other. Excellent work, Captain, replied Fleet Admiral Taehyung Lim. Begin Phase 2 operations. Phase 2 was even more devastating than the first attacks. Human forces did not destroy cities or kill civilians. Instead, they dismantled the very structure of galactic civilization. Communication networks went dark. Trade routes were blocked. Supply lines were cut. The Council's vast bureaucracy ground to a halt as human forces systematically destroyed their ability to govern. Engineer Minho Park, brother of New Busan Administrator Ji-hoon Park, led teams that captured Council research facilities. What they found there made even hardened soldiers sick with rage. Captain, you need to see this, he reported to his commanding officer. The research facility contained evidence of secret experiments on captured humans. Worse, many of the test subjects had been children taken from remote colonies. The Council had been studying human biology by torturing human children for years. When news of the discovery reached Earth, President Yoon Ji-kwan's last hopes for a peaceful resolution died. She authorized the release of this information to every human world. The result was predictable. Human forces that had been showing restraint now fought with absolute determination. They were no longer just seeking justice for one child. They were avenging dozens of children who had suffered in secret. War correspondent Young-ho Bae documented the change in human behavior. The discovery of the research facilities has transformed this conflict, he reported. Human forces are no longer fighting for justice. They are fighting for survival of their species. His report showed something that terrified alien observers. Human warfare was not savage or emotional. It was cold, calculated, and absolutely efficient. They fought like machines programmed for one purpose: total victory. Commander Seokjin An, led the assault on the Council's primary weapons research facility. The aliens had been developing new weapons to use against rebellious species. Most of those weapons were designed to cause maximum suffering. "Destroy everything," Commander An ordered his troops. "Leave nothing that can be used to hurt children ever again." The human soldiers carried out their orders with grim satisfaction. Laboratories were reduced to melted metal. Research data was completely erased. Scientists who had participated in the experiments were arrested for war crimes. Dr. Sunho Nam received reports from every captured facility. The pattern was always the same. The Council had been systematically studying how to control and punish younger members of every species. They were not just cruel to human children, he realized. The war entered its second week, with the Galactic Council facing complete military collapse. What they had expected to be a minor punishment of an upstart species had become a fight for their very existence. Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung Lim stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays show the systematic dismantling of Council power. Red markers indicated destroyed military bases. Yellow markers showed captured installations. Green markers represented worlds that had switched sides to join the human cause. "Admiral, we have confirmation," reported his communications officer. "The Council's 7th Fleet has surrendered without firing a shot. That makes 23 fleets that have given up." "Any word from their main battle fleet?" "Admiral Vorthak is still trying to organize a final defense at the galactic capital, but half his ships have deserted." Fleet Admiral Lim nodded grimly. In 2 decades of military service, he had never seen such a complete breakdown of enemy morale. The Council forces were not just losing battles. They were losing the will to fight. The reason was clear to anyone who understood military psychology. The Council had spent centuries conquering through intimidation and fear. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with superior technology and absolute determination. Captain Ji Woo-song's stealth fleets continued their deadly work around Council core worlds. Her ships moved like ghosts through space, appearing only to strike at critical targets before vanishing again. "Stealth 7 to command," came a report from one of her squadron leaders. "Council supply convoy destroyed. No survivors. Stealth 3 reporting. Communication relay station is offline. The capital is now completely isolated." Captain Song studied her tactical board with satisfaction. The Council's ability to coordinate their remaining forces was almost gone. Soon, their scattered fleets would be fighting blind. On the diplomatic front, Ambassador Kyungmin Ryu had returned to the Council Assembly one final time. But the great hall that had once buzzed with the voices of 3,000 species was now nearly empty. Most species had withdrawn their representatives when news of the child experiments became public. Others had openly joined the Human Alliance. Only the core Council species remained, huddled together like criminals awaiting judgment. "I offer one final chance for surrender," Ambassador Ryu announced to the sparse assembly. "Turn over all war, criminals for trial, and this conflict can end today." Chancellor Glorex stood at his podium, his Thraxian bulk trembling with rage. "Humans will never rule the galaxy. We are the rightful masters of all species." "No species has the right to torture children," replied Councillor Minji Yu. She was the only human still serving in the Council, having stayed to witness its final moments. "Those experiments were necessary for galactic security," shouted Chancellor Glorex. "Every species must be studied and controlled." His words caused a shocked silence. Even his own supporters looked uncomfortable. The Chancellor had just admitted to authorizing the torture of children from every species in the galaxy. Ambassador Ryu shook his head sadly. "Then you have chosen extinction over justice. So be it." As he left the assembly for the last time, alien leaders realized their mistake too late. They had followed the Council's propaganda about human weakness. Now they faced an enemy that would never stop fighting until their children were safe. The military situation continued to deteriorate for the Council. Commander Seokjin An led the final assault on their primary naval academy, where future officers were trained. "Surrender the facility," he broadcast to the academy commander. "Your cadets do not need to die for the Council's crimes." Admiral Zerion, the academy commandant, looked at his young students with anguish. They were barely adults, fresh-faced kids who had joined the service to explore the galaxy. Now they faced human soldiers who had become legends of terror. "We surrender," Admiral Zarion announced. Please, they are just children themselves. Commander On's reply surprised him. All children deserve protection, Admiral. That is why we fight. The human forces treated the surrendering cadets with unexpected kindness. They were processed as prisoners of war and given medical care. Many of them had never met humans before and were shocked by their humane treatment. War correspondent Young Ho Bei interviewed some of the captured cadets. What did you expect humans to do? He asked. We were told you were savage barbarians, replied a young Kalari cadet. Our instructors said humans killed prisoners and ate their enemies. And what do you think now? The cadet looked confused. You gave me food and medical treatment. You asked about my family. I do not understand. Young Ho smiled sadly. Humans only become savage when our children are threatened. To everyone else, we try to be kind. This pattern repeated across the war zone. Human forces showed mercy to those who surrendered, but absolute ruthlessness to those who continued fighting. The message was clear. Stop hurting children, and you will be treated fairly. Dr. Sun Ho Nam worked tirelessly to document the crimes discovered in captured council facilities. The evidence was overwhelming and horrifying. Children from hundreds of species had been subjected to medical experiments, psychological torture, and worse. How many? Asked President Yoonji Kwon when she received his latest report. At least 50,000 children over the past century, Dr. Nam replied quietly. Probably more. Many records were destroyed. President Kwon closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them, her resolve had hardened even further. Make sure every species in the galaxy knows what the Council did. They need to understand why this war was necessary. The revelations had their intended effect. Species that had remained neutral now actively supported the human cause. The Council found themselves completely isolated, with only their core military forces still loyal. On New Busan, little Hyuna Kim finally opened her eyes. Dr. Moran Lee had worked miracles to save the child's life. Her parents cried with joy as their daughter smiled weakly at them. The pretty lights, Hyuna whispered. I am sorry I broke the machine. Her father, Jae-ho Kim, held her small hand gently. You did nothing wrong, little one. The bad man was wrong to hurt you. News of Hyuna's recovery spread quickly through human space. The child who had started the war was alive and healing. Millions of humans felt renewed determination to finish what the Council had started. Administrator Ji-hoon Park visited Hyuna in the hospital. How are you feeling, brave girl? When can I go play outside? She asked innocently. Soon, Ji-hoon promised. The galaxy is becoming safer for children like you. Daiho Seo, the old veteran who had witnessed the attack, stood guard outside the medical center. His fellow colonists had made him security chief, and he took the job seriously. No one would hurt their children again. Engineer Minho Park, Ji-hoon's brother, had returned from the war to help rebuild the colony. He brought disturbing news from the captured council facilities. They had files on our colony, he told Ji-hoon privately. They were planning to take some of our children for their experiments. Ji-hoon felt sick. Hyuna? She was on their list. A healthy human child of the right age. The brothers looked at each other with grim understanding. The attack on Hyuna had not been random violence. It had been a preview of something much worse. This information was classified, but similar discoveries were being made across human space. The Council had been systematically targeting human children for years. The experiments they had already conducted were just the beginning. Admiral In-soo Han received the final intelligence reports with growing horror. They were planning to take 10,000 human children, he told his staff. The facilities were already being prepared. For what purpose? To study human emotional responses. They wanted to understand why humans fought so hard for their young. The irony was bitter. The Council had planned to torture human children to learn about human protective instincts. Instead, they had triggered those instincts and doomed themselves. Fleet. Admiral Tae-hyung Lim led the final assault on the galactic capital. The planet Centrum had been the seat of Council power for 1,000 years. Its orbital defenses were legendary. But legends meant nothing against human technology and determination. The attack fleets phased through the defensive shields like they were made of air. Landing craft descended toward the planet's surface while the orbital stations burned. Council Speaker Norvac, huddled in his bunker deep beneath the capital city. Around him, the last loyal council members argued desperately about their options. "We could offer reparations," suggested one advisor. "The humans will not accept money," replied another. "They want blood." "Then we fight to the end," declared Chancellor Glorex. "Better to die than surrender to inferior species." Above ground, human marines moved through the city with clinical efficiency. They had studied the layout for months and knew exactly where to find their targets. Civilians, who stayed indoors, were left alone. Only council officials and war criminals were hunted. Captain Yejin O personally led the assault on the main government complex. Her troops used non-lethal weapons when possible, but they showed no mercy to those who resisted. "Buildings secured," she reported to her commanding officer. "Minimal casualties. Beginning prisoner processing." The speed and efficiency of the human assault shocked even experienced observers. What should have been a long, bloody siege was over in hours. The mighty Galactic Council had fallen like a house of cards. 6 months after the fall of the Galactic Council, the trials began on New Busan. The choice of location was deliberate and symbolic. Justice would be served where the crime was committed, in the shadow of the fountain where a little girl had been shot for touching an alien machine. A temporary courthouse had been built in the colony's main square. Representatives from hundreds of species came to witness the proceedings. For many, it would be the first time they saw real justice served instead of council oppression disguised as law. Judge Sang-hoon Yoon, a respected human jurist, presided over the trials. He had volunteered for this duty, despite knowing it would define the rest of his career. The whole galaxy would be watching every decision he made. Commander Threx was the first defendant brought before the court. The Valdorian who had started the war looked smaller now, dressed in prison clothes instead of his military uniform. His yellow eyes showed fear for the first time in his life. Prosecutor Ji-young Kim stood to address the court. She was young for such an important case, but her reputation for thorough preparation was legendary. Every fact would be presented with clinical precision. "The defendant stands accused of assault against a child, abuse of authority, and crimes against sapient beings," she began. "The evidence will show that Commander Threx deliberately attacked an 8-year-old girl who posed no threat to him or his mission." Defense counsel tried to argue that Threx had followed proper counsel procedures, but Prosecutor Kim had done her research. She presented evidence that even under council law, attacking children required authorization from higher authority. "The defendant acted on his own anger," she stated coldly. "He shot a child because she accidentally touched his equipment. No law in the galaxy justifies such an act." The courtroom fell silent as security brought in a small witness. Hyuna Kim, now 9 years old, walked slowly to the witness stand. Her recovery had been remarkable, but she still moved carefully due to her injuries. Dr. Moran Lee had prepared Hyuna for this moment. The girl understood that telling her story would help protect other children. She was nervous, but determined to do the right thing. "Can you tell us what happened that day?" asked Prosecutor Kim gently. Hyuna looked directly at Commander Threx as she spoke. "I touched the pretty machine because it had lights. I did not mean to break it. I said I was sorry." "What happened next?" "The big alien got very angry. He pointed his weapon at me and shot me." Her voice was steady despite her young age. It hurt very much. Commander Threx shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Facing the child he had nearly killed was harder than facing human soldiers in battle. "Why did you touch the machine?" the defense lawyer asked during cross-examination. "Because it was pretty," Hyuna replied simply. "I like to learn about new things." The defense had hoped to show that the child was somehow at fault. Instead, they had only highlighted her innocence and curiosity. Even alien observers could see that shooting her had been monstrous. Other witnesses testified about the attack and its aftermath. Daiho Seo described the horror of seeing a child shot down in cold blood. Dr. Moran Lee explained the extensive medical treatment required to save Hyuna's life. Administrator Jihoon Park testified about the aliens' behavior before and after the shooting. "They showed no remorse," he stated. "Commander Threx acted like hurting a child was normal and justified." The evidence phase of the trial lasted 3 days. Video recordings, medical reports, and witness testimony painted a clear picture of unprovoked violence against an innocent child. But the real revelation came when Dr. Sunho Nam took the stand as an expert witness. He presented evidence of the Council's systematic abuse of children from all species. This was not an isolated incident, he explained to the shocked courtroom. The Council had been planning to abduct human children for their research programs. Commander Threx's attack was part of a pattern of child abuse that spanned centuries. The defense tried to object, but Judge Yoon allowed the testimony. The full scope of Council crimes needed to be understood for proper sentencing. Files from captured Council facilities were presented as evidence. Photos of torture chambers, medical experiments on children, research notes discussing the optimal age for breaking a child's spirit. Many observers left the courtroom in tears. Even hardened military officers struggled to maintain their composure. The Council's crimes were worse than anyone had imagined. Chancellor Glorex was brought to testify about his role in authorizing the research programs. The former Council leader had aged decades in the months since his capture. His arrogance was gone, replaced by the fear of a criminal facing justice. "Did you know about the experiments on children?" asked Prosecutor Kim. "They were necessary. For galactic security," Glorex replied weakly. "Were human children specifically targeted?" The former chancellor hesitated. "All species needed to be studied." "That is not what your own documents say." Prosecutor Kim presented classified Council files. "These orders specifically mention human children as priority targets. You signed them personally." The evidence was damning. Not only had the Council tortured children, they had planned to escalate their crimes against humanity. The attack on Yuna had been a prelude to something far worse. Additional defendants were tried in rapid succession. Xylith, the Kalari, second in command, who had stood by while a child was shot. Council Speaker Norvac, who had authorized cover-ups of previous attacks. Military Coordinator Vextar, who had planned the abduction operations. Each trial revealed new horrors. The galaxy learned that the Council had been killing children for sport, using them for medical experiments, and selling them as slaves to allied species. Ambassador Kyungmin Ryu testified about the Council's response to human diplomatic protests. "They laughed when we demanded justice for our children. They called our concerns primitive emotional responses." "How do you feel about that assessment now?" asked Prosecutor Kim. "Our emotions protected the galaxy," Ambassador Ryu replied firmly. "Our primitive instincts saved millions of children from torture and death. The trials lasted for months, but the verdicts were never in doubt. The evidence was overwhelming, and the defendants had no real defense for their actions. Commander Threx was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment. His military rank was stripped, and he would spend the rest of his life in a human prison facility. Chancellor Glorex received the death penalty for orchestrating genocide against children. Judge Yoon announced the sentence with grim satisfaction. "Some crimes are so heinous that death is the only appropriate punishment." Other council leaders received sentences ranging from decades to life imprisonment. None would ever walk free again. But the trials were only the beginning of the new galactic order. President Yoonji Kwon had promised that humanity would not seek to rule the galaxy, and she kept that promise. Instead, a new galactic assembly was formed with representatives from every species. The first law passed by the new government was simple but absolute. Any being who harms a child of any species will face immediate arrest and trial. Admiral In-Soo Han was appointed as the first director of Child Protection Services, a new organization with authority to investigate crimes against children anywhere in the galaxy. His agents had the power to arrest anyone, regardless of species or position. Dr. Sunho Nam established rehabilitation centers for children who had survived council experiments. These facilities used advanced human medical technology to heal both physical and psychological trauma. Engineer Minho Park designed new safety protocols for all public facilities. Never again would children be exposed to dangerous equipment without proper protection. Captain Yejin commanded the new Galactic Protection Fleet, tasked with responding to any threats against civilian populations. Her ships were stationed throughout the galaxy, ready to intervene at the first sign of child abuse. On New Busan, life slowly returned to normal. Children played in the streets again, watched over by adults who understood the price of freedom. The fountain where Hyuna had been shot became a memorial to all the children who had suffered under council rule. Huna herself grew up to become a symbol of hope for the galaxy. Her recovery inspired millions of beings who had thought justice was impossible. She studied to become a doctor like Dr. Moran Lee, determined to help other children heal from trauma. War correspondent Young-Ho Bae wrote the definitive history of the conflict. His book, The War for the Children, became required reading in schools across the galaxy. The final chapter contained a simple message. Evil triumphs when good people do nothing. Humanity chose to do something. Daiho Seo trained a new generation of colonial defenders. Veterans from many worlds came to learn his techniques for protecting civilian populations. His most important lesson was always the same. Children are not weapons or targets. They are the future, and the future must be protected. Counselor Minji Yu became the human representative to the new Galactic Assembly. Her first speech to the reformed government was brief, but powerful. We have learned that strength without compassion is tyranny. Never again will the strong prey upon the weak. The new Galactic Constitution included protections that would have been unthinkable under Council rule. Children had the right to safety, education, and protection from exploitation. Parents had the right to defend their young by any means necessary.